Today, we're diving into the world of visibility, branding, and content strategy with an absolute expert, Vinny Protestivo. Vinny is an Emmy Award-winning media advisor who has worked behind the scenes shaping the personal brands of A-list celebrities like Ashton Kutcher, Beyoncé, and Nick Cannon. He knows exactly what makes a brand stand out, get noticed, and stay relevant in a crowded digital space. If you're a content creator trying to break through the noise, gain media attention, or build a brand that attracts opportunities, this episode is packed with the exact strategies that have worked for top names in the industry. Let's get into it. You've worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment. What originally drew you to talent development and media strategy? How did you start?
I was fascinated. Celebrities sort of did something that most people don't do, right? They kind of especially artists, they kind of just create content. They just create songs and they create words and they create sayings and they just sort of create energy because they can, not because they should. And they don't wait around for someone telling them what to do. They kind of have to figure it out themselves. And I love that process. I love that process of being inspired and wanting to inspire others and then finding a creative way to make that happen. And if I could support the people, the thought leaders who could do that, and also those people, back in the 90s were also musicians and artists and actors, then that seemed like a really fascinating lifestyle that I could live, being surrounded by people who are making change and then being part of that change. And that's what I think initially drew me to talent development, why I like helping people step into their own potential and helping them get recognized and the recognition that they deserve. And by the way, there's a lot of secrets that we can learn from in regards to content and in regards to celebrities and their growth as well.
You were fascinated by celebrities and you thought, how could you help them? How could you provide value to them? And that's what got you started in talent development. Am I right?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's where it starts. What got me into talent development was I was able to answer that question. That question that you just asked, how do I support artists and celebrities that are making a change? I had to come up with a way to answer that question, and I couldn't wait for someone to give me the answer. My solution to that answer was distribution, right? So I don't believe that better content gets more eyes. I believe that better distribution gets more eyeballs. Yeah. And most people, they try more episodes with more famous people. I mean, I've had Beyoncé is on my last episode of my podcast. I can tell you that having world famous people on your podcast doesn't get you more eyeballs. Action gets you more eyeballs, and energy gets you more eyeballs, and distribution gets you more eyeballs. If you want more people to see your content, then get it in front of more people. But don't wait for social media to be the way to grow it. That's what I like about podcasting. Podcasting, we can be anywhere in the world and record and distribute and still have the same distribution as everybody else. Like
in the US now, I'm in Nigeria. The time discrepancy is as if I'm in the future and you're in the past. And here we are having a conversation.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I do think, though, and that's why I lean into podcasting, because I mean, one of the big secrets I learned from celebrities is collaborating. And one of the most difficult things that we've had to deal with as creators or individuals when it comes to collaborating people who are close to us and near to us, and technology has made it possible so that my team can be global the same way that this podcast is currently being recorded globally as well. So those types of collaboration opportunities are made possible now because of technology, and celebrities have always leaned into collaborations as a way not to grow their audience, but to grow their community. A community is formed when more than one audience comes together. So right now, your podcast has an audience, but the audience that's also listening to your podcast and seeing it in social media is my audience. That's our community. And that's something I learned from celebrities. Yeah. The term global village, I never really understood it for a long time until now, global village. Oh, everything is connected, right? A lot more so, too. I mean, you can create something that I could edit, that a friend of mine could write, and that another friend of mine could record. We can be in real time working with each other as opposed to just a couple of years ago where that was really difficult. But to be honest, I think collaboration is really important now because it's going to introduce me to new opportunities and ideas and new workflows and energy. And a big reason why I continue to do more podcasts now in my career is because I want to continue to connect with more people who do what I do, which is support the creative process, get content out there, and own content that helps build your platform. And that's something that I can get behind. That's something I do myself, and that's something I see in you.
Yeah, like I've listened to your podcast, and I was like, wow.
Thanks.
At first, when I listened to your podcast, I was kind of confused. I was like, wait, is it the same man I'm seeing on Podmatch that is recording the podcast? Because like the podcast, the voice I was hearing was a very young man, but the face I was seeing on Podmatch was like, an elder man.
Yes, I do.
I don't know if it's the beard or so, but like once you just remove the beard, you look very young. But once you put the beard, you're like the likes of Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, right. I'm old enough to have the credits that I have finally. Age is a funny thing, and I lean into it. I bring it with me because the more I bring into the room, the less other people have to. And you know what? You're probably listening to my voice when I start. When you start production in podcasting versus a couple of years later, you learn how to use your voice as a powerful instrument and not just to take for granted the stuff that but really work on the breath support and the intonation and the phrasing to make sure that the message is being received, especially to people globally, worldwide, right? Like what you heard, I probably was speaking 1,000,000 miles per minute. I speak so fast sometimes, and not everybody can listen to me when I talk fast. So I had to learn to slow down so that I can be more impactful. And I like that about podcasting. I'm still learning in the process. I love that.
Yeah. Especially when you have a guest on the show, and if you very, very fast and you say a question, the guest is like, well, can you repeat that? And then when they say that more often, you tend to realize that something is going on here. Is it that I'm too fast, or the guest just cannot hear very well? And you realize that it's the first one that is the case.
Yeah. There's a lot of new hosts and a lot of new guests in podcasting. So I like to come on new podcasts because one, I like to meet new people in the beginning part of their career. That's how I got started. I got started because people wanted to help me, and I know what that felt like. And if I can help people do the same, and I can do that in these podcast episodes, and I can help you create a whole episode, and I can tell you Mandy Moore stories and Beyoncé stories and things like that no one else is going to share with you that maybe I can share because I was in the room when it happened, then that makes us stronger, our community, and that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. One last question before we go into the content itself is, if you weren't in media and branding world, what do you think you'd be doing?
I'd be either in front of the camera or I'd be a teacher.
Okay.
And I'd still be doing the same exact thing.
Okay. You'll still be teaching.
Inspiring people to take action and do things, either as a teacher through education or as like an actor or personality in front of the camera. Maybe more of like a TV personality, maybe like a news anchor or something like that.
Yeah. So I think now it's the time where we get to the part I'm so excited for. The first question I want to start off with is, how does celebrity branding differ from how does it differ or compare to content creator branding?
A great question. I mean, first and foremost, like let's just define how we're talking about celebrities versus sort of like content creators, because some celebrities are content creators and some content creators are celebrities. So maybe I will say, I think the answer to your question is fame versus influence. Like celebrities often build their brand based on mainstream media exposure, TV, film, music, sports. Their reach is broad. Their reputation is managed by PR teams. Content creators, their brand is built on direct engagement with an audience through social media. Their influence is much more niche than what a celebrity's would be. And it's community driven, often managed by themselves, not by the PR team. So right there, you have sort of like fame versus influence, which I think are sort of a big difference. Platform dependency. Celebrities, their fame exists dependently on any single platform. Even if social media disappeared, celebrities would still be recognizable. But creators, their success is tied to a specific platform, a specific algorithm even. They need to continuously adapt to changes in that ecosystem of engagement to get more visibility. So creators have to work more so in line with the algorithms of those platforms than celebrities do, because celebrities, again, exist outside of social media as well. Maybe I would say also content approach. Like celebrities often rely on like directors and teams and studios and people they hire to manage their public image. Creators are self-made media brands. We handle our own content, our own marketing, and our own business strategy. It's one thing to know what we want. It's another thing to know how to get it. And again, that's why I felt like I wanted to support leaders who were creating their own brand the same way that the same personal brand that I helped create for decades, by the way. I just know that eventually those people need teams and they need more support. And if I can help you now in the stage of growth to build towards something that allows you to be successful because of how you built it, as opposed to in spite of how you built it, then I feel I did my service and justice and duty based on like the values and goals that I have to support leaders and content creators now. A great question, by the way. So platforms are different. Fame versus influence, I think, is a big part of it. And then the content approach, who does what and who manages it. And there's benefits to both, by the way. There's benefits to both.
I'd like to follow up on a particular difference you made mention of. And you talked about how content creators, for most content creators, not all of them, most of them, majority of them, you said that their influence is dependent on the platform. So if they got, let's say, cancelled on YouTube and maybe their YouTube channel got deleted, for most of them, they would have to like start from zero or from scratch again. And how do that's like a fear that for most content creators we have at the back of our mind, that okay, if the platform just for one reason or the other, like how do they get outside that cycle of fear, get to protect themselves?
Self-confidence. The number one way to avoid fear is self-confidence, first and foremost. Like, look, things are going to happen, things are going to go wrong, things are going to go right. There's going to be a lot that happens as a result of people just doing something. And there is nothing more difficult in this world than just being yourself. It is very easy to follow a trend or do what somebody else has done before you, but to do your own thing in your own way takes guts. Unfortunately, most of us do this on public platforms, like you're saying, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, where when they disappear, we disappear. So a couple of things I want to say. Here's like three ways to build your platform on social media without letting fear hold you back, right? Because it's natural to feel fear when your entire brand depends on the platforms you don't own. Fear of losing everything, whether it's an account ban or an algorithm shift, right? Number one, and you're never really dependent and you never really own anything, especially data, but like own your audience. Your audience is your power. So as you're on social media, be mindful of ways to continue to get email information and SMS information, possibly even push your community conversations over to private groups like Discord or Patreon. It's so important for you to be mindful of where your community gathers. Chances are, if you built your community a while ago, it's on a social platform. If you built it recently, it's on a distribution platform. So look at Discord and Patreon and be mindful as you're growing to always be growing your personal list that you grow. So it's really hard to do. It takes effort, and I'm here to help you. That's number one, is own your audience. Number two, think like a brand, not a creator. Like celebrities don't disappear when a movie flops, so neither should you. Creators tend to only show up when they have something to sell. I'm telling you to diversify your brand presence so that your identity isn't just tied to one platform. Like I do a lot on LinkedIn, and I help a lot of leaders on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is without a doubt the strongest platform that I have a presence in. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook because I did get to work with like hundreds of people, thousands of people in my lifetime that are real people that are still around. So those platforms are great to literally be social with them. But I'm not just on LinkedIn. I am on other platforms where the rest of my audience is. Being where your audience is matters. So own your audience, think like a brand, not a creator. And to be honest, there's this word repurpose. We repurpose our content. Like we might record this video. How about instead of repurposing it, you pre-purpose it? Right? How about instead of, maybe if you're a creator and you talk about podcast creation, maybe there are 5 different like podcast meme accounts on Instagram, or maybe you have a friend who has a niche account about podcasting. Maybe there's a news platform about podcasts. Reach out to them. Say, I would like to send you content to promote. What type of content does your audience like? Because I'm recording content. How can I create something that's valuable to your audience, and how can you be in design set up to support me? Like, I'm not guessing who's going to support my podcast when I have an episode. I already know it's who, not how. I know who's going to support me because I asked them to, and I got really clear on that also. So like that's really important to me for sure.
Yeah, and I think that what you just shared ties back to thinking like a brand. Because now you're like, okay, these accounts, they're actually looking for great content to post out there. And what you're literally doing is you're like, how can I help you reach your goal while also helping myself too?
Yeah. And that's intention.
Yeah.
That's intention. Being divisive, which means I'm only going to help you if it helps me. Being divisive would be, well, let me help you. You should buy my course. You should buy my this. You should buy my that. And your success should equate to my success instantly. And I'm saying, open up the conversation. And some people will say to me, well, Vinny, you had so many show ideas. Weren't you afraid people were going to steal them? Steal them. I don't care. Take them. You'll never be able to do what I can do. You're not in my head. You can't execute it the way I can. And you're not Vinny Protestivo. So are there TV shows that I said no to because I didn't think they were going to work? And did they go on and be successful? Yeah, for a short term, but none of them are still on TV like some of my bigger hits are. And again, I think that has to do with trust. We trust people.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the three framework you just started with. One is, I think, own your audience. That's build email list, SMS. The second one is think like a brand. And the third one, you talk about pre-purposing your content, not just repurposing, right?
Yeah, pre-purpose it, right? Like have an intention. Know who's going to support it, For example, I'm known for helping people get visibility. So one of the things I did was build ihaveapodcast.com as a place where new podcasters can come to get stories written about them. So after we're done with this interview, I'll invite you to get an interview done. And then what I can do is create a blog article about you and your podcast and put that out there. And that's going to be searchable on Google. And I had to take that energy into my own accord. I had to make that happen. And to help ensure my success and to help make sure you're successful, my intention was to build a distribution platform. My intent is to help you get seen. Yeah. And that's why I show up with like links and support documents, and I like to tell people how to do things and get things done, because I'm not just here to give you ideas, but I want them done. So I want to make it easy for you to move forward. And I know I have a lot of different experience working with different types of teams and different types of content, and I want to get that information out there. So this is the way that I know how to do it best, is through your website and through your podcast.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like, honestly, and one of the fears a lot of persons have when it comes to collaborating is they're like, well, what if I collaborate? Isn't my audience going to leave me and go to this other person? And what I usually do think is, if your audience would leave you and go to someone else, then it means that you're not unique enough, like you're not authentic enough to even have that audience. They will leave anyway.
Yeah. Focus on being different, not better. For me, that's always worked.
Yeah, and yeah, now that you're mentioning some of these strategies, it becomes clear to me that, because I now understand why musicians they feature other artists in their music, in their I'm like, yeah, nice, yeah, it's all coming together.
I mean, I saw Beyoncé open for Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw some big. I don't know if you know, Sabrina Carpenter is a big. She opened for Taylor Swift. I met Mandy Moore because Mandy Moore was in Good Charlotte's music video. It's literally people, and this is what I learned from Beyonce. Beyonce is the only, and Destiny's Child. Beyonce, has Michelle, Kelly, and Beyonce now. They're the only group I knew that intentionally built solo artists. Like they sat down and said, okay, so we're a group, we're Destiny's Child, and then we're going to all go do our own solo stuff. And Michelle Williams went to gospel, and Kelly went to electronic, and Beyonce went to R&B, and then they all came back as Destiny's Child and then pop again. And then they all went back out again and did their individual tracks, and then they all came back again and collaborated as Destiny's Child. And when you have success in your solo career and have success in group career, what you're doing is it's called the sort of the halo effect. You're bringing your success patterns into all of these places that you touch.
Yeah.
And that it becomes exponential. So collaboration is key, but collaboration also means we have to create something new. Integration is when I can be collaborating with you on a deeper level where, for example, if you have clients that need visibility, but you're really good at creating podcasts, you can tell them, well, you should hire Vinny to get you more visibility, because when Vinny will get you visible, and then when you become visible, then they'll be able to listen to the podcast that I create for you. And that's me being integrated into business. So collaborate and integrate, two different words and two different ways to go about doing something similar. One, I'm just connected deeper to the results and to the outcomes. The other, we have to create something with the collaboration. We have to create something brand new to be able to work together. So I avoid collaborations when I can, but also integrations. It's like a marriage. You know, you're going to be part of my business, so you can't rush into integrations either. Unfortunately, they say the quickest way to end a war is to lose it. So I want to be careful.
That's so true. The quickest way to end the war is to lose it.
Lose it, right?
You talked about integration. I think the deeper the levels of working together, I think the deeper the relationship, collaboration, and then integration. Creators have to build relationship, not just who will I look for now? Just blow up my brand so I can go piggyback on them like a parasite.
Exactly.
And earlier on, when you were differentiating between content creators and celebrities, you talked about how most celebrities are mainstream media and content creators are platform and all that, right? So for the question I want to ask is it how important is it for content creators to get featured in mainstream media?
Oh, it's extremely important, and I think the biggest mistake that content creators don't realize they're making is how easy it is, how much the mainstream media needs creator numbers. So first and foremost, here's a great trick that I don't know if people are doing yet. There's something called IMDb, the Internet Movie Database. It's where all of the films and actors and directors and executive producers, you can see any movie that was ever created. Movies, TV shows, those are types of intellectual property. Another type of intellectual property is podcasts. So by creating a podcast and owning the podcast, you own intellectual property, which means that you could go to IMDb.com, which is owned by Amazon, and get executive producer credit and put all of your guests and all of your episodes down. In fact, I believe in this so much that I've written and onboarded and have videos that support this. So if you want to go to my site, vpe.tv/IMDb, I'll give this link also to make sure that you can find this in the Wisdom Journey podcast notes. vpe.tv/IMDb.
I'll add it to the show notes.
What this does is it gets your name as a data point from Amazon so that Google can recognize your name as a data point and show up in search results. And if you're not showing up in search results right now and you own a podcast, putting your podcast on IMDb and claiming your credits is the first step to giving you instant visibility, both in your search and in photos. The other thing is propagate. We have to pitch. I've had quotes and clips from my podcast that have aired in the New York Times and the New York Post and GQ and weekly magazines. They don't get there by accident. They get there on purpose. And I have to approve. I have to release the rights to give people the rights to be able to use my quotes. So I have to pitch them. So I pre-purpose. I know who I want to pitch to. I know what's going to work for them. And then I pitch it to them. I say, hey, Mandy Moore shared with me that she's going to direct an episode of This Is Us. That's not in the press yet. I would love to be able to talk about how creators can evolve their skill set and step into being a director. So I'm pitching that idea out, but I have to, it's who, not how. I have to have those contacts, and I have to work to have those contacts respect and trust me so that when I have something to say, they're quick to post it, right? Because you know why? Because everything needs to get fact checked. And who checks the facts? Sources. So if I can be a source, then everything I say is a fact. And what I do is I put myself in a relationship with these journalists where I'm seen as a source. And my content that I want to have talked about is a resource. And that's one of the ways that I'm able to get more press for my for my podcast, and obviously celebrities as well, because they're seen as the source. You know, they don't have to be good at cooking. They could just be in a film about being a chef to be able to get a big gig and a big deal, you know, that might profit what would probably normally take a creator as a chef, but a celebrity who's just in a cooking project would be able to, you know, reap the rewards there. And that's what it is. It's staying true and then owning your space.
Yeah. There's one of the things I've been thinking recently. It's more like a thought, and is the fact that most of the mainstream media, like the radio and the TV stations, especially for local, not just international, for some of them, I feel like, because I've watched some of them, I've listened to some of them, what they are doing is good, but I feel like they need great content, because I'm like, what's happening here? Are we still in the 90s? So what I've been thinking is how to, you know, you gave a rough sketch of how we could possibly do that, but I was like, these people, they would happily take good content if they see it and if you give it to them.
And that's how it starts. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. Is the mainstream media starts the top of the month with negative hours. They have to create because they sold time. So they have space with no content in it right now. They need content because they're going to have to spend money to make it.
Wow.
And if you can start creating content for them, if you can no longer repurpose your content so people aren't reacting to your content, but if you were pre-purposefully reaching out to people and saying, hey, you have a newsletter, you have a blog, you have a website, you have a TV show, you're a local news, you have to say something every single day. Would it help if I gave you this? I'm an expert in visibility. I'm an expert in celebrity. I'm an expert in podcasting. Could I send you 5 podcasts that everyone's talking about right now? The 3 best podcasts that are being recorded locally right now? Like, how can I be seen as a source for you so you can trust me? And I would focus on that. You know, to your point, look, I can't predict the future, but I know we can make it. I can't predict the future, what's coming on in television, but I know we can make it. And if you make great content, yes, big studios and networks will love to run your content on TV. And maybe they can do the first or second one for free. But what happens next is they become dependent on it. And then that's when you have leverage to get paid. And I have a lot of experts that go on local news and they talk about things, you know, during Mother's Day and Father's Day and the holidays, the things to buy, the things to watch, the things to buy into. And then when those segments don't happen, well, what happens to those people? They actually create segments and they send it into the news segment because we know that the news program trusts that person. So if they can't come on air to talk about the 5, you know, gifts to give your mom for Mother's Day, then let them create a package, let them create a segment that would allow you to air it when you do need it, because they always need more content, and it's all about relationships. It's literally all about relationships. And look, unfortunately, in the mainstream media, those people jump around because those companies are closing or they're being defunded or losing viewership because the digital world is growing. Trust people, not platforms, and follow them. That's why I spend so much time on LinkedIn. I find people that I trust on LinkedIn. I support myself with people who support me. I support my clients who also support me, and that's intentional.
One of the questions I'd love to ask is, we've seen instances of celebrities who they're big, and the next day they start begging for money. Coming back to content creators, most content creators, they struggle with monetization, right? So the question is, how can you said earlier on that we should think like a brand. How can we use the thinking like a brand to create more revenue opportunities?
Yeah, it's a brilliant that's a way more brilliant question than you may even realize. I love that question. Don't think like a celebrity when it comes to getting paid. Celebrities often are not the people who are negotiating their own contracts. Celebrities are often the people who are only happy if they're getting paid based on what everybody else is getting paid, right? You'll never hear about someone being happy with their work, with their paycheck, unless they got paid exactly what everybody else. I'm not even talking about the male-female gender pay gap that's very true and prevalent in Hollywood. I would think like a creator. Do not, if a brand wants to work with you, the first question I would say to you as your manager is, how much do you want to get paid? I don't care how much everybody else is getting paid. I don't care, because you're not going to be happy with what everybody else is getting. You say a number that's right for you. And this is a very different approach than what celebrities do. Celebrities have to be compared to apples. Celebrities, because they're all represented by the same agent, and the agent has a legal financial responsibility to make you money. So because this person has legal responsibility to make you money, they can't make you any more or less money than their other clients, because then they're not living up to their end of the agreement. So what ends up happening is actors kind of get paid. I mean, there's unions and things like that in place for this, but actors kind of get paid against the success of each other, versus outside of the world of celebrity, where that does not happen in business with brands, where people value people. You do not need to have one episode of a podcast to be able to have a podcast sponsor. You need a sponsor who believes in you. That's how you get paid. You don't get paid because they believe in the episode. They believe in you. The episode gets people to you. They believe in you creating the episodes. They don't believe in the episode. So I would start by asking myself, what do I want? How much money do I want to make in a year? Some people are afraid to answer that question because they're worried about what everybody else is getting paid. Well, what if I say too little? What if I say too much? What if you don't? What if you just worry about what you want and we just focus on that? Because you're going to get a version of what you ask for. So let's go with your best version and let's start there.
Wow. When it comes to making money, we shouldn't think like a celebrity. We should think like a creator. But when it comes to getting more visibility, we should think like a celebrity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how about this? You can't cash checks if it's social currency, right? If I'm only social, if my currency is my social awareness, I can't cash that check. But if we're a business and I'm respected and we have a dotted line and we have a relationship between us, that money is going to support more than my craft and my goal and my family and myself. It's going to support my values, and that's something that's far larger. So, again, you're asking some really great. I've never been asked these questions before. This is a great question. Think like a celebrity when you're growing your brand, so that no one person can take you down, right? No one platform can take you down. Yeah. But also, one of the things we get to do as people, because also our finances aren't talked about as and shared as much as celebrity finances are. So we get to have a little bit more privacy than those celebrities do, by the way. So that's something that's nice to know we have that they don't have, which is privacy. And just focus on what makes you happy. I'm telling you, I've been in so many conversations where an opportunity comes in and someone says, well, should I get paid? And they go back and forth for days or hours or weeks, and then nothing happens because then the deal falls apart. Know what you want when you go in the room, you're going to get it. If you don't know what you want, you're going to get a version of what they're going to give you. And that's not how I like to do things.
Yeah. Like if you don't know what you want, if they give you anything, you take it because you don't exactly know what you want. But if you know what you want, you're like, no, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I also like, you get paid. You get paid two ways. You get paid. You either get your price or you get paid what your price is, or you get paid what your cost was. And I'm a big fan of sharing with people what my value is, and people don't get to determine how much they. I
love for you to expand on that. No, I can't just let that slide. That you just dropped a banger quote and you just wanted to ignore it, like. You have to expand on that. You get paid either your price or your cost. Like, wow.
Yeah, right. I mean, what is the cost of not knowing your price? Think about that. How much is slipping through the fingers? I mean, you're so worried about what everybody else is getting. That's a price, but at what cost? I mean, let's not compare ourselves to each other. We're all different, so we're not all so easily comparable next to each other. And I'll tell you what, that cost, it's expensive. And that price, again, you're going to get a version of what you ask for, and you get one or the other. It's the truth. But don't let other people determine what your value is. Stand strong in your value. They'll determine what you can get paid. You determine what you should get paid.
Yeah. Wow. So true. I like that perspective. Now, for most persons, most content creators, they are on this. They're on YouTube, Instagram, or whatever social platform that might be of their choice. And they are experts in their field. Like, without the social media, without the platforms, they are actually good. Some of them, they are like doctors. They've been in the industry for like maybe 30, 40 years. They know their talk. These people are legit good, right? They're not just, content creators who are dancing. And again, there's nothing bad with that. But now they have the expertise, right? They might not exactly have the fame. How do they connect with local. Okay, you made mention of it. You talked about it, right? When you're like, okay, go for some episodes on radio stations, TV stations. For me, the question I'm asking is, how do we do more of that, right? Get to connect, because we have the expertise, we have the credentials and all that. How do we do more of that, and so that we can not just make money from YouTube, we get to make money from, like, for me, I see content creation as helping people. So basically, we get to help more people, and then we get to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, YouTube is a social network, right?
Yeah.
And, mainstream media, like your big TV shows are, probably your TV shows, your news probably that everyone watches is distributed on a television network, which is a content network, right? So like, here's one example of a social network. And then here's one example of a content network. What I'm going to point out to you is that the answer is in networking. And again, it's all based on people. And how you build your network out matters. Some of it is a support network. Some of it is a financial network. Some networks have, let me say this a different way around. Some people have figured out how to create content and get it distributed. That's a content network. Some people have figured out how to get paid by advertisers and then find people who have content and give them advertising because they have an ad network. So I would say focus on the network for you that makes your zone of genius and your zone of impact the strongest. Focus on the version of your network that helps support your content. Let's look at the celebrity equation. If one of those platforms were to go away tomorrow, would you still survive? Like, we should be asking those questions, not because we out of fear, but because we can. There's this great book called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah,
So
I read that book. Yeah.
Oh, did you? It's a great. I mean, it comes up so much, and a lot of us read it earlier in our careers. But like, if you're in podcasting, if you're in content, if you're in media right now, look around, because like, people aren't just moving your cheese; they're redefining what cheese is. There's parallel
changing
realities.
everything.
There's so many different ways to go about that. So I would, and also, when I look at the timing, it's 2020. What a year for us to be able to step in with technology on the phones and computers that's accessible globally now. I mean, it's just a different market. It's a global market now versus before.
Yeah, like we've had such a great conversation, and what I want to quickly do is I want to extrapolate some of the ideas, right, that are running through my head, so my audience can also get to benefit from it too. Like,
yeah, of course.
If someone is creating content and probably they're an expert in whatever they do in one way or the other, one of the things is they have to be visible, and they have to be on those platforms. They have to be on LinkedIn, be on, you talk about you're on LinkedIn, be on YouTube, right? And the other thing is they should reach out to local media, local platforms, radio station, TV shows, and if possibly, maybe pitch their content, or they can get an airtime show for free on the platform and basically get to advertise yourself, right? So what I'm thinking...
Yeah, that's a great point. Also, by the way, not just public, think about the private side. So maybe pitching to news is scary. Pitch to podcast. Do you have any podcast friends that own their podcast? Pitch to them. Ask them if you can have a segment at the end of their podcast. Pitch to people who have a newsletter. How many of your friends have newsletters? Ask them if they'd like to have a blog or a quote or a segment that you can drop in the newsletter to help them. That's on the private side. On the decentralized side of media, look at Quora and Reddit and like all the platforms where text lives, where conversations happen. Start a conversation that you can support by dropping in your podcast link. But like, I'm not telling you to go pitch to a big news network to get more visibility, but do pitch your question and answer and share the value of that podcast episode, and then support that share with an episode that's a podcast or a video series. So yes, pitch, but it doesn't just have to be to TV. Websites have collaborations and contributors. We talked about podcasters, newsletters, guest blogs, on medium.com. And I choose to be on LinkedIn. It's my choice. I choose to be discovered on LinkedIn because people are who they say they are on LinkedIn. They're not like some weird name like you can get on X, Twitter, or like, other places where you can get verified. Yeah, exactly. I can see where you worked and who you really know. So like the intention is different. Instagram is like, silly. LinkedIn's business.
Underscore.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
exactly.
Wow. No, 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 no. Wow, wow. I feel the platform is just different. And so most persons, they
Yeah.
were like, well, why should I go to LinkedIn? LinkedIn is for work. I'm like, LinkedIn has people on the platform, irrespective of the fact that it's professional. No, irrespective of what you do, someone on LinkedIn will need your services. And so you just have to be there because people buy from those they are aware of.
Yeah, I agree with you. And people, yep, I completely agree with you. People buy from people that they're aware of. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah. Two questions I want to like quickly ask before the time is you talked about pitching, right? But me on the other hand, I like the fact that you become a magnet, you magnet things, right? So the question I want to ask is how can we position ourselves as content creators to like for brand collaboration and sponsorships, right? Such that we get people reaching out to us, DMing us, messaging us, emailing us, begging us to to sponsor us.
Oh, I love that's a great question. So one, you need to be found where they're looking for you.
Mm,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm saying IMDb first and foremost. That's why I'm saying like hurry up and get on IMDb because like that's a place where celebrities are and that's a place where big creators are. So I wanna make sure that, I'm in a place where they're searching for me. So I take that very literally. For example, if you're on Instagram or WhatsApp or you're on any of the meta platforms and you have Jiffy, and you can make stickers. If you
Yeah.
type in my name in the stickers, I pop up and a lot of me pops up. Hundreds of images of me pops
Wow.
up. And not just that, but I show up for a lot of different words in Giphy because I know that people go to Giphy when they have an emotion that they're looking to tap into and they want to bring it into the conversation. So if I can help you find that emotion, then I get to be part of that conversation. And that's really important for me. So
Yeah, and that's
being
basically free
discovered in
advertising.
places. Yeah, that's so then, and it becomes unique, and it becomes unique and different. People search for things on Giphy using hashtags and words and names. So if I can be found for a theme or something like that, that's that really matters.
Yeah.
That's one. The second thing is I talked a little bit about resource and source.
Mm.
So on LinkedIn, the way that newsletters are set up on LinkedIn to work, the newsletter is the resource, and that's the thing that gets shared, and then you're the source. Your profile is the source of that. So when people follow the resource, when people find my newsletter on LinkedIn and they follow my newsletter, they automatically follow me as the source on LinkedIn. So I'm not just sharing my knowledge, I'm creating a knowledge base called a newsletter, and I'm letting people subscribe to that newsletter on a platform that they trust called LinkedIn. And I don't do things like go watch my video on YouTube if you're looking at a LinkedIn post, because I know you would rather be on LinkedIn. If you wanted to go to YouTube, you would have gone to YouTube. So I can embed a YouTube video into my LinkedIn newsletter. Also, LinkedIn newsletters are free. Also, when I send out a LinkedIn newsletter, there's a blast that happens in InMail. So everyone that's the 5,000 or 6,000 people, they get an email sent to them. They get a notification on LinkedIn. They get a notification in their app. They get a notification on their phone. They get an email follow-up. If I talk about them, their audience gets tagged in. And so there's a lot that comes out of it. But I had to be in TV, again, in the 90s, where the gatekeepers were, the people who made decisions based on who was going to be seen and not. And that's why I'm not on television anymore. And I'm on this side of the TV game, being a gatekeeper and helping people keep stronger gates for themselves. Yeah. So that we have strong, healthy boundaries. Those are the things that help brands find you. I also, for example, people will ask me if I can, I don't know, let's see, someone will say, hey, can you fill out this form? Or, hey, can you retweet this post, or can you repost this on LinkedIn or something like that? They'll look for content support. And I'll say, the best way that I can support you is by giving you a quote. Because I'm an industry expert in my industry. So if I were to give you a quote, then would you be able to use that? And their eyes light up. Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
No one ever offers to give me a quote. I know. That's why I'm offering it to you, because I want to give you something that has quotes in it so that you talk about me. So I'm going to give you the piece. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to invite you. I'm going to empower you I'm going to tell you, you like what I said? put it in quotes. I'm not going to let people determine I determine my price. I determine my cost. If you like that saying, quote me on it. I give you permission to. But that's how you get brands to see you. Empower people to support your thoughts, to bring your quotable nuggets of information and knowledge into conversations that otherwise wouldn't be there. I focus on being the source so that everyone else who talks about me, when they're talking about me, talks about me in the context of being a leader and being a source, not another voice in the conversation. It's very intentional with how that.
Like
and that's the magnetic effect.
Yes, so true.
You know, a magnetic effect. People feel like they're getting access. So people crave exclusivity if they feel like they're getting access to something special.
Yeah.
So offer insights in limited spaces. So for example, you know how I'm trying to grow my brand right now? I'm not trying to be on everybody's podcast in the entire world. I'm just only focused on being on podcasts from people from a platform called Podmatch, because I believe in this platform and I've seen the impact that this Podmatch platform can do. And Podmatch.com is a platform for podcasters to get connected to success, not just to each other.
I'm like, if it wasn't Podmatch, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, by the way, there's a lot of other ways that we could have met. I chose to meet you through Podmatch, and I am intentionally leaning on Podmatch to make these connections for a big reason. Podmatchers are serious about their success in podcasting. Podmatchers go to podcast conventions. When I go to a podcast convention and I meet 100 Podmatchers and I've all been on their podcast, that's not me kind of knowing 100 people. I've spent an hour, like you and I just now. I spent an hour of my life one-on-one with these people. That's a very deep relationship, and it's focused if I do it in Podmatch. If I don't do it in Podmatch and I just do it out in the ether and the rest of the world, it doesn't feel like I'm making impact the same way that I know I am on the Podmatch platform. And that's why I love being the number one most booked guest on the platform, and it's why I support that platform, because they make changes that support us. Yeah, they make changes that support us.
That number one. Maybe in the future when I become a guest, I might dethrone you from that leaderboard.
Please do. It's lonely up here, buddy. I'm creating space for you. Let's get some wisdom up in here.
Wow, but it's going to take a lot of effort. Wow.
You'd be surprised at what it takes to get visibility. I figured out the algorithm, so I know how to lean on the algorithm to give me support, and I do it diligently. And my friends know that that's something I'm actually really good at, is leaning on the algorithm to get me visibility.
Between you and I, how many podcasts do you go to in a month? Let me steal some of your secrets.
Oh, well, the answer to that question is 300 a year is what my goal is.
Wow.
Yeah, so I want people talking about me every single day of the year.
Wow.
So I create time in my calendar, 4 hours every few days to bang out, 4 to 6 different podcasts.
Wow.
And it's powerful. And, I'm leaving my reputation and my career in your hands, like the title that you call this podcast and the way you talk about me in social media and the words that you use to describe me really, really matter, because that's what people are going to see now. Yes, I have Emmy and I have lots of awards from television and lots of credits. But in today's world of GPT and everything moving so fast and search being what it is, no one has time to understand what any of that looks like. And I make it time to make sure that people like you understand what I went through as a creative, as I'm supporting you, knowing that this conversation is going to change the conversation. And that's why I can show up, because I believe in you. And like I said earlier, I don't know what's coming in the future, can't predict the future, but I know we can make it if we do it together.
Yeah, I just want to quickly ask the remaining 2 questions, so I don't get to take so much of your time. You talked about podcast guesting and you talked about the leaderboard and Podmatch and all that. And for me, I've been thinking of that idea of, okay, I should be a guest as a podcast. But the thing is, if someone is just starting out in an industry where they're not exactly they're not exactly an expert per se, they're just more like documenting their journey and their process and all that. How exactly would they pitch other podcasts to be a guest on their podcast?
What a beautiful. I thought you were going to phrase that question differently, but what a beautifully phrased question. I do strongly believe that I became a better podcast host when I learned how to be a good podcast guest. when you focus on who's really, think about it, who's really bringing the value into these podcasts. If it was you, it would be a solo episode. But because it's the two of us, chances are the responsibility to bring in the goods, the big quotes, it's probably my responsibility to bring it in, and then you're going to help your audience understand what's in front of them. And I think understanding that the guest has a lot of power over how the conversation goes. Look, I'm thinking about this from a celebrity's perspective. So celebrities have something called a junket, right? So like when Matthew McConaughey is in a movie, when actors are in a movie, they go to a hotel and they sit down in a room, and like 50 to 100 different journalists come into that room, and they ask them all different questions. And they ask them crazy questions. What did you eat? Who do you like? Who did you vote for? What did you do with this? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you, all the weird questions, because everyone's looking for something different to talk about. And actors have a really hard job making sure they give the interviewer enough of an answer to give them the answer to the question, but also being specific about why we're here. So when people ask me on a podcast, hey, Vinny Protestivo, you're here. Thanks for being here today. I don't say thank you for having me. I enjoy listening to your podcast. I say, thanks for being here. My sleeves are rolled up. Visibility took me a long time to figure out for myself. And I did it for big stars. If I did it for big stars and I'm now learning how to do it for myself, I want to make sure people who are listening to this podcast episode are going to get that same experience. So I have to make sure my answer, the purpose, the reason why I'm here is baked into my answer. And maybe I've even done this a couple of times between our exchange, where you might ask a question and then I sort of bring in some of my answers and the things that I want to be bringing into the conversation. I find a creative way to do that.
Yeah.
But it is really hard, to answer questions if you don't know what the questions are unless you practice. And I can literally answer any question that you throw my way because I've done the practice on figuring out how to get people to get the support and impact that I know that I can get them to make by helping them become more visible just by following me on LinkedIn and by connecting with me on my websites and those deeply meaningful ways. Great question. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Like, I've learned a lot, and like I've written a lot of ideas that I'm going to run with, I'm going to test, I'm going to implement. Wow.
Dude, please do. Take screenshots and then share them with me on social media, and all of us can see your growth and grow with you. That's the cool thing, right? In television, by the time your show's on air, it's already kind of got to be a success and it has to move quickly. But what we're doing, slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah, definitely. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm documenting my journey along the way. And yeah, thank you so much. This has been packed with so much insights, and where can our listeners go to learn more from you, grab your resources, and start building their own standard brand?
I'll tell you what, you know how to play podcasts? Well, after you're done listening to this podcast, if you want to give mine a listen, you're more than welcome. I'm inviting you over. My podcast is called I Have a Podcast, available everywhere where you're listening to this podcast. And then LinkedIn is a great place for me to connect all the time. Otherwise, to be really honest, I would ask your listeners to meet me in the 5-star review section of your podcast, where I'm going to be leaving you a review. And I'd rather meet people in the 5-star review section of your podcast than in my inbox on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for this. The Wisdom Journey podcast. You got to bring the wisdom, you got to bring the journey, because that's what it's all about. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much. It's like you remind me that that's the next time I wanted to ask you was for an Apple podcast review, and you just said it. Wow.
See, and by the way, that's great, that exchange right there. What matters to me is people support you. So if I can use my time to help people understand how much support they get from them leaving it's free, y'all listening. If you're listening, it's free. It doesn't cost a single penny to leave him a 5-star review. Leave him a 5-star review. Change the kid's life. Change our life forever. Add to the conversation and be part of the change. It starts in the 5-star reviews. Yeah, thanks, bud.
Thank you so much. Probably in the future, when I do video podcast, I would invite you. That way we'll get to have a face-to-face conversation. Right now, we're doing ear to mouth.
Yeah, exactly. I look forward to more, and I would love to come back. Thank you for that.
I'll follow up on that, and I'll contact you for that details. Thank you so much for the 5-star reviews. That's it for today's episode of Wisdom Journey. If you found this insightful, helpful, and you learned a lot from this episode, Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your respective podcast listening platform. It really helps other persons discover the show. Yeah, keep creating, keep learning, and most importantly, keep sharing your journey. You never know who needs your wisdom today. You see what I did there? Until next time, stay inspired and keep going.